I have a confession. I don't always feel like making YouTube videos. In fact, it's a struggle to finish one every single time. But that hasn't stopped me from publishing every Wednesday for the last 26 weeks. So today, I'll share how I manage to create even when I don't feel like it, because I know what it's like to struggle with motivation and make excuses for my own procrastination. I want you to become a prolific creator, someone who's extremely consistent with bringing ideas to life and determined to develop their craft. Marketers and influencers alike make bold claims promising you instant motivation with no effort. These claims mislead many creators looking for real solutions to their motivation problems. It's the type of messaging that perpetuates a myth holding you back from finishing creative work. A myth preventing you from reaching your goals, gaining control of your life, and becoming a master of your craft. Now I'm going to tackle this topic in two parts. In the first part, I'm going to unblock the limiting mindset that's been holding you back from your creative potential for years. And in the second part, we're going to implement some strategies to make the creative process easier when you're struggling to stay consistent. No strategy, tactic, or tip will help unless you understand the myth that's been limiting your mind and holding you back from pushing through tough times. The modern myth of passion. Find a job you enjoy doing and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Mark Twain. There's a common belief in Western culture that when you find your passion, suddenly creative work becomes play. Passion wipes away all the drudgery of generating ideas, and motivation just oozes out of you. Passionate people who have found their calling, are different. They always feel like doing the work, and they never procrastinate. They don't struggle sticking to their creative routines or question whether they're doing enough. Passion is the panacea to all your motivation problems, and only the most special among us will ever find it. But it's on this hill I'm going to plant my flag and shoot straight with you. All that passion talk is bullshit. You know just as well as I do, some days creative work feels more daunting than a burpee challenge. Many of the world's most successful creatives have struggled with these same feelings. Jerry Seinfeld realized early on that if he wanted to be a great comedian, he needed to write better jokes. For decades, Seinfeld has committed himself to a daily writing routine to achieve his goal. Every day, he sits down and writes whether he feels like it or not. And guess what? He still struggles to maintain his routine, even calling it a grind. Nobody would argue Seinfeld isn't passionate about comedy, and yet there are still plenty of days he just doesn't feel like writing. Those feelings of apathy don't stop him. James Clear wrote Atomic Habits, the best-selling book on how to build good habits and break bad ones. You would think the guy who wrote the definitive book on sticking with a creative routine probably doesn't struggle with motivation anymore. But think again. There have been many days where I didn't feel like writing, but I wrote anyways. James Clear. Both of these guys are highly successful and very passionate about their craft, and yet both of them struggle to stay motivated. So what is it that drives them to roll up their sleeves and get after it even when they don't feel like it? Well, take it from the man himself. If you only do the work when it feels easy, then you'll never be consistent enough to become a professional. The modern myth of passion leads creators to think finding it will make everything feel fun, easy, and delightful, the promise of work becoming play. All this stems from our misunderstanding of the word passion. In the modern sense, it means an intense desire or enthusiasm for something. Like a Hollywood love story, it's irresistible. But the word has much darker roots in the Latin passio, meaning to suffer an intense pain. To be passionate about something is to be willing to endure hardship for it. Seinfeld and Clear don't just love what they do. They make sacrifices to pursue their craft with the dedication of a professional. So be honest with yourself. Is being a creator a hobby or your craft? If bringing ideas to life is your hobby, then there's nothing to worry about here. If you don't feel like creating, then don't. There's no point in forcing yourself to do something that isn't that important to you. The purpose of a hobby is to bring you recreational joy and satisfy your intrinsic curiosity. Hobbies are a useful tool to alleviate stress and anxiety. There's nothing wrong with doing creative work just for fun. We all need hobbies to live a balanced life. Baking bread is a hobby of mine. I buy books, experiment with various recipes, and find the entire process meditative. I even toyed with the idea of taking it to the next level and starting a bakery. I've eaten focaccia in the Italian motherland. I've got to say, my bread gives them a run for their money. But you won't catch me baking unless I'm in the mood for it. And the reason is simple. Baking is something I do, not who I am. Being a baker is not core to my identity. And I'm not really willing to endure any pain to stay consistent with developing my baking skills. If I never baked again, I'd be a little sad, and so would my family on the holidays, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. Craft, on the other hand, is serious business. Like Seinfeld shows us, even comedians who make a living being silly have to take their craft seriously to be successful. Your craft usually begins as a curiosity where you're just dipping your toes in to see if you like it. If you explore that curiosity long enough to get a taste of what being good feels like, you'll develop a passion for it. Not passion in the modern sense, but true passion, where you're willing to endure the struggles required to achieve some level of mastery. People don't find their passion. Passion is cultivated through action, experience, and positive feedback. Developing a passion for your craft is necessary but not sufficient to become core to your identity. At this point, it's still a hobby. To take your craft to the next level and unlock the motivation needed to push through hard times requires a conscious commitment to go pro. Becoming a professional isn't about making money, landing a job, or being ordained by the gatekeepers in your field with the mark of expertise. Modern society has reduced the meaning of the word profession to mean someone who makes money from their craft. But the word professional is rooted in the Latin professio, meaning a public declaration. Professio later expanded into the English profession to refer to a public declaration in reference to a skill or craft. So what does all this mean? You become a professional once you make a declaration of commitment to your craft, a commitment to pursue mastery. It's the assimilation of your craft into your identity. It's the passion you developed infused with a deeper sense of purpose. It's the declaration of commitment to embrace struggle in pursuit of mastery. You'll never be able to stay motivated if you keep one foot out the door your whole life. Only once you've gone through and there's no looking back will you have the willpower and tenacity of a prolific creator. Look at anyone you respect in the creator economy and you will see the same thing. They've all dedicated themselves to their craft. They're all committed. The most important thing about art is to work. Nothing else matters except sitting down every day and trying. Steven Pressfield, The War of Art. The professional creator brings ideas to life. They don't talk about doing it someday. They don't tell people that they're going to do it. They don't wait around till they feel like doing it. They have an idea and they bring it into the world. The creative act is what they do, it's who they are. Once you've committed yourself to going pro, there's no question about feeling like it or not. You just do it. It's a decision, not a trait. It's conscious and completely within your control. If you're still watching this, then you're at least considering going pro. And you're probably willing to endure a little bit of pain to pursue your passion, and you understand that struggling with motivation is just part of the game. If that sounds like you, congratulations. You're already winning the war. You have the right mindset to be successful where others will simply make excuses. You already know you're going to sit down and do the creative work even though you don't feel like it. Failure to do so is not an option. For people like you, I have strategies that actually work. These solutions will also help the hobbyists out there, but until you've committed to the path of mastery, doubt will linger in your mind, questioning whether the struggle is worth the effort. Keep following your curiosity, pushing yourself until the decision becomes more clear. You may not be ready to commit now, but with more experience, you may decide to treat your craft as a profession. These things take time. Most of motivation can be simplified to two things: the chemical release of dopamine in pursuit of a goal, and the human drive to avoid discomfort. We're always running toward pleasure and away from pain. So to get ourselves to sit down and do the work even when we don't feel like it requires finding ways to increase dopamine release while managing our discomfort. If you go back in human history to when we had to hunt for food, you realize there was a great demand for motivation. If you couldn't go on multi-day hunts while on an empty stomach, you would die and your tribe along with you. Motivation wasn't an option. The way our brains evolved to motivate us to pursue challenging hunts is to release dopamine into our system. Dopamine makes us feel alert and tickles our brain with delight as we inch closer to our goals. Whenever we consciously choose to struggle toward a goal, dopamine is released. After about 15 minutes of discomfort, we enter flow state and suddenly forget that we're even struggling. The discomfort dissipates and our focus locks in. Time feels like it doesn't exist, and ideas stream effortlessly from your brain to your fingertips. The first 15 minutes are always the hardest. You know this to be true if you just think about any workout you've ever done. It's always the thought of starting that brings up all the excuses, but without fail, after 15 minutes of exercise, it feels good. You start to feel energized and in the zone. And more importantly, you overcome that initial struggle and finish the workout, you start to feel proud of yourself for pushing through even when you want to make excuses. This is exactly the same process ancient hunters went through to feed the tribe. And it's the same process I'm going through as I struggle to articulate these thoughts to you. Every time you choose to embrace the struggle in pursuit of a goal, you develop your baseline levels of dopamine and motivation becomes more readily available for the next challenge. It's what you would call discipline, and it's trained through this exact process. So first you want to set goals and track progress. Humans are goal-oriented creatures. Most people avoid setting goals because it opens up the window for them to fail to reach them. In the past, I've done this type of self-sabotage and it prevented me from making any real progress towards anything meaningful. But without something we're struggling for, failure is all but guaranteed. The best way to avoid failure is to set a clear goal and start tracking your progress towards it. You track progress towards that goal because it creates a steady drip of dopamine, motivating you to keep pushing as you get closer to that goal. Most people severely underestimate the power of tracking progress, holding them back from staying consistent. The progress principle, developed by Teresa Amabile, found the single most important factor in boosting motivation, creativity, and productivity was making progress on meaningful work, even if that progress was small. Progress can't be meaningful if you don't have a goal that's important and chosen by you. You won't feel like you're making progress if you don't track it. So I just can't think of a simpler way to immediately increase motivation other than just set a goal and track what you're doing. I personally track all of my creative work, goals, projects, and notes in my gamified second brain system built with Notion. It's completely revolutionized the way I approach creative work, keeping me on track with the goals I've chosen. If that's something you're interested in, let me know and I could show you. So the second step is to adopt the professional mindset. Vows are sacred. When you make a public declaration committing yourself to a promise, you embody the professional mindset. If you want to feel motivated to do hard creative work, then make that proclamation. Tell your audience, whether it be one person or 10,000, that you're going to deliver them value on a consistent schedule. If you don't have an audience, then promise a friend, a loved one, or a coworker. Make that promise and watch the excuses melt away. Start setting deadlines for deliverables and challenge yourself to live up to your promise. This strategy is dead simple and it's extremely effective for increasing motivation. Now, when your brain tries desperately to avoid the discomfort of creative work, it's not just you that you're letting down, it's everyone you promised. Now look, they won't actually care and they probably wouldn't even notice if you missed a self-imposed deadline, but you'll know. And remember, we run towards pleasure and away from pain. But this doesn't just play on your drive to avoid discomfort, it also ensures you're making progress towards your goals, increasing your drive toward the pleasure of accomplishment. A professional stays true to their commitment to craft and to their patrons. The next thing you could do is gamify creativity. Dopamine without effort is poison for motivation. When you sit on the couch and watch TV all day, you feel depressed, anxious, and drained. Isn't it strange that a day filled with absolutely no effort makes us feel so terrible? But it's not that surprising if you consider dopamine is released when we exert effort in pursuit of a goal. Without any effort or progress towards a goal, the brain decides it doesn't need to motivate us. If you shortcut the effort and go straight for the cheap dopamine rewards provided by phones, TVs, and video games, then motivation gets crushed, making it even harder to start. This is why scrolling social media, playing video games, or watching TV before creative work makes it way harder to start. You've already been rewarded for doing nothing. I avoid this nightmare by doing creative work first thing in the morning. The world is less distracting, and my brain hasn't had a chance to shortcut my reward systems. Look, you could still indulge in the simple pleasure of watching adorable dog reels, but reward yourself after the creative work is done, not before. Just like games reward you for beating a boss, you reward yourself for conquering your inner couch potato. I like to buy myself books for hitting milestones and reward myself with video game time after finishing all my planned work for the day. Another tactic to gamify the creative process is to create challenges for yourself. Putting on a timer is an excellent way to kickstart your brain into action. For whatever reason, whenever a timer starts ticking, I just start typing. It locks me into focus because suddenly there are stakes involved, even if they are arbitrary. Try seeing how long you can focus before looking at the timer or how many words you can type in 15 minutes. Try putting music on. Experiment, shake things up. Just because you don't feel like doing creative work in the moment doesn't mean it has to suck. Try to find ways to make it fun and you'll find the whole process much more enjoyable. Another thing you can do is optimize your environment. Most of the struggles of creative work are self-imposed. You don't want to sit down and type because you're staring at a blank page. You don't feel like filming the next video because your gear is tucked far away deep inside the garage. You aren't motivated because the first thing you did this morning was reach for your phone and start scrolling the news. Your environment is critical to your success. You want to make it obvious and easy to start creative work while making it hard to get distracted. That's why you want to create systems around your process and use templates to outline your work so that you never start with a blank page. You can try setting up your camera gear the night before filming so you don't have to rush to film before work in the morning. Try leaving your phone outside the bedroom when you sleep and don't touch it until you've finished your morning creative routine. Just imagine how much easier everything becomes once you start planning ahead and strategizing how you'll outsmart your tendency to avoid the work. If you're still struggling to start, then go to a coffee shop or some other new environment to stimulate your mind. Novel environments have been shown to increase our creativity and help us enjoy the process more. Make it easy to start and hard to get distracted. That's the key to success. Now, everything I've shared is how I stay consistent. I told you at the start of this video that I don't always feel like going through all the steps to make a video, and it's a struggle to push through at times. But I practice what I preach. I have a clear goal to make 100 videos. I vowed to release at least one every Wednesday. I track my progress with my systems, and I create templates to make it easier to start. I reward myself for hitting milestones and finishing challenging work. I don't use my phone in the mornings, and I always start the day off with a little bit of creative work. And when I'm really struggling, I put on a timer and gamify the work sessions. Most importantly, I've adopted the mindset that struggle is a good thing. It means I'm pushing. I'm growing out of the old person who made excuses into the new person who just does what they said they would. My hope is you join me on this journey, because I've got to say it feels really good knowing you did it even though you didn't feel like it. If you want to learn more about how to set goals that actually motivate you, then check out this video right over here.